What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie, and today we're going to talk about the pen and ink that I used most in May and all of the books that I read in May. If you have just watched my April video, you knew that that was a bad month for me and I only read one book. Well, May was a hot topic, baby. I read 6, so I'm going to fly through them. Okay, so I read mostly non-fiction books this month. I read 2 fictions, so let's start with those. I reread, I should say, Edge of Tomorrow. This one happens to be the movie edition cover. Edge of Tomorrow is also known as Live, Die, Repeat. It's a very old book. Well, not very old, but basically it says when alien mimics invade, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I apologize. Kiji is what I'm just going to say. Played by Tom Cruise. I'm not even going to get into it. They're supposed to be Japanese. But anyways, is just one of many recruits shoved into a suit of battle armor called a jacket and sent out to kill. He dies on the battlefield only to be reborn each morning to fight and die again and again. On his 158th iteration, he gets a message from a mysterious ally, the female soldier known as the Full Metal Beach. I can't say that word. Is she the key to his escape or his final death? Dun, dun, dun. So she's supposed to be American in the book. He's supposed to be Japanese in the book. Yeah. It originally is from a Japanese author called Hiroshi Sakurazaka. I'm sorry if I butchered that because I probably did. I've read this book several times now. I really enjoy it. There is a movie made after it as well, obviously with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. Which is why it got renamed to Edge of Tomorrow. The original book was called Live, Die, Repeat, which basically sums it up. So he's in training camp, about to go to war. They go to a battle. He dies in that battle, and then he wakes up in training camp again. And it's like Groundhog Day. He lives the same day over and 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 over. And you find out that she is also doing the same thing. And then they sort of work together to try and figure out how to stop the endless loop. Super fascinating. It's pretty high pace. It's pretty interesting as far as the war and the battles go. Very well written. I liked it quite a bit. And I also love the smell of it. If you've seen the movie, you'll enjoy the book. If you enjoy the book, you'll enjoy the movie. The movie does what the movie does. But because it's not a super huge book, it doesn't stray like crazy far. Although, to be fair, I haven't watched the movie in a very long time. But highly, highly recommend. The other fiction book that I read was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Most of people in the world have now fully understood who this man is. But if you don't, Google him because he's fascinating, him and his brother. Anyways, he's written a million books. I've read them all. This is the latest one. So it says 16-year-old, he always writes about teenage girls. 16-year-old Asa is trying to be a good daughter, a good friend, and a good student. She's also trying to track down a fugitive billionaire, Russell Pickett, who has vanished without a trace. Alongside her best and most fearless friend Daisy, Asa sets off in pursuit of the truth and a $100,000 reward. The trail leads them to Pickett's son Davis, a sometime friend of Asa who might have the clues they need, but as her compulsive thought spirals take her into a tighter grip on her mind, Asa finds herself struggling to keep her investigations and her life from falling apart. So basically, yeah, you're going through this investigation with her, but really that's just sort of the umbrella of the general story that's like kind of going on. But really the meat of this book is her own mental health issues. As she struggles with compulsive thoughts, mostly around her like inner illness. She isn't sick, but thinks that she is, and just assumes that everything is going to kill her, which is very relatable to me. Whenever my anxiety starts to spiral, just like that, where it gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and you think you're gonna die. It is almost always, 98% of the time, health related to myself or others. So really that's the main thing, is how she copes and deals with her spiraling anxiety and intrusive thoughts. It is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. John Green himself deals with that, so it's very personable. And as somebody who also deals with it, I highly, highly, highly recommend. I read this all in one sitting. I was just encapsulated with it. It's a relatively easy read. It's not like you have to know big words or whatever. But it's very interesting. I like it quite a bit. If you're at all interested in what it's like to have intrusive thoughts and not be able to stop your brain spiraling into negative thought patterns, or somebody that does, read it to understand them a little bit better, or recommend it to them, because chef's kiss. Okay, and then I have 4 books that are nonfiction. 2 of them are by the same author, Ryan Holiday. So if you watched my other video where I do January to March, then I forgot technically what month I was in. Then you'll know that I already read Lives of the Stoics by Ryan Holiday. And I read 2 of his other books. So The Obstacle is the Way and The Ego is the Enemy. These books are pretty much identical. There's a third that goes along with this series that I will talk about next month. For you, it'll be next week. They're very, very, very similar together. Essentially, this one says the obstacle is the way. So anytime something tough happens, something poopy in life happens, whether you get fired, you don't get the promotion, somebody passes away, for me with the flippin' bats that lived in my house for a year, the whole idea of this is to lean into that obstacle, go through the mud, and then that way you'll be able to emerge stronger on the other side. So something that Marcus Aurelius talks about in Meditations, and other philosophers too, is it's a good thing that bad things happen to you, because if they happen to somebody else, it might completely ruin their lives, but you are strong enough to deal with it. You don't think you are, but you are. So lean into the obstacle. And then it goes through a bunch of examples from people in the past and recent history, of the shirt that they've had to deal with and how they've overcome it. And basically, it's made their life better. It talks about the Cuban Missile Crisis and how, if Kennedy gave in to fear, then we may not be here right now. But he didn't. He slowed down. It's also going to be in the next book. But yeah, so highly, highly recommend. And then the other one, same thing, gives you modern examples, gives you pastime examples of how the ego is the enemy, that you are your own worst enemy. Your ego is really the only person, if you want to personify it, that you really have to battle against in your whole life. No one else matters, but this is what stands in your way. Just as it's wrecked the careers of promising young geniuses, evaporated great fortunes, and run companies into the ground. It's made adversity unbearable and turned struggle into shame. Its name, ego, and it is the enemy of ambition, of success, and resilience. It is an internal opponent warned against us by every great philosopher in our most lasting stories and countless works of art in every culture and age. In the pages of this book, we fight to destroy it before it destroys us. So basically, that your shirt does stink, that you are not the center of the universe, and that it will destroy you if you don't get a grip on it. And it's true. I do not consider myself an egoist, not like, other people who certainly have that on fleek, but it runs everyone's life, and how to get a grip on that. Parker's just running him mad. And then in pair with that, I read Brene Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection. This is one of the first things that she wrote. Just basically how to live with failure, with your ego, with all kinds of stuff. It's basically on the front page, it goes, the gifts of imperfections. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. In a groundbreaking New York Times bestseller, Brene Brown, a research professor and thought leader on vulnerability, courage, worthiness, and shame, shares 10 guideposts of the power of wholehearted living, a way of engaging with the world from a place of worthiness. So basically, overarching theory of this book is stop living through your ego. Stop trying to live the picture of what you think other people want out of you and live who you actually are. The most important thing from this book, and it talks about it a lot, but the most important thing I got out of this book was boundaries. I am a bit of a people pleaser, and by a bit of people pleaser, I mean I'm a very big people pleaser. So stop it. Don't be afraid to have somebody not like you necessarily. Set boundaries with your relationships, be that the closest people in your life and the people that you just have as acquaintances. Let them know essentially how far they can go. Say no sometimes. Like if you're invited out to a party and you just need alone time, you need to recharge, say no. Obviously we're in a, ever-evolving pandemic where parties are and then aren't and then are and then aren't and then are again allowed. But say no. Discover your boundaries. Discover how far you can go before it starts to hurt you inside. And then live it. Embrace it. Your vulnerabilities, the little chips in your teeth, make you who you are. And live it, because the people who will accept it are the ones that are meant to be in your life. This book is fascinating. This book is full of gold. A little repetitive again, but also gold. I appreciate the fact that she's very vulnerable herself in it, and talks about a lot of the things that she's ashamed of in her life. This is a book basically about shame, and how to stop being ashamed of yourself, really. It's fascinating. Easier said than done, but fascinating. Another book that is absolutely fascinating, holy moly, is The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. I'm going to guess this is his last name. I don't really know how to pronounce it. It says, as America descends deeper, and I'm not American, I am Canadian, but we do share similar things. As America descends deeper into polarization and paralysis, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt has done the seemingly impossible. Challenged conventional thinking about morality, politics, and religion in a way that speaks to everyone on the political spectrum. Drawing on his 25 years of groundbreaking research on moral psychology, he shows how moral judgments arise not from reason, but from gut feelings. Haidt explains why liberal, conservatives, libertarians have such different intuitions about right and wrong, and demonstrates why each side is actually right about many of its central concerns. In this subtle yet accessible book, Haidt gives us the key to understanding the miracle of human cooperation, as well as the curse of our eternal divisions and conflicts. If you're ready to trade in your anger for understanding, read The Righteous Mind. So I picked this one up also on recommendation from Ryan Holiday in one of his podcasts. I cannot for the life of me remember which one. This is a heavier book. It takes a while to go through because it's meaty. It's meaty. You have to digest a lot of information very quickly, and to really understand it and internalize it. It challenges a lot of your biases. You can tell that he is writing from not quite liberal standpoint, but more on that side. But he does his best to confront even his own biases. He points it out a lot of the time. And what I appreciate about this is that it breaks down the fundamentals of your moral code, regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, and how, regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, your moral code's not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just that oftentimes they don't agree. And a lot of times that's okay. So it's really fascinating to understand and read this book. I will read this book again, because I'm sure I only really digested about a quarter of it. And it's great. I really, really recommend it. There's a lot of charts and trying to find here. Trying to flip through. Anyways, there's a lot of different charts here. Not that you can really see this, chapter 7, the moral foundations of politics. you know, it's like he gives a lot of questionnaires that he would give out in actual studies that he's done in his life. So like, how much would someone have to pay you to perform each of these actions? Assume you'd be paid secretly and that there would be no social, legal, or other harmful consequences to you after. Answer by writing a number from 0 to 4 after each option, where 0 is $0. I'd do it for free. 1, $100. It would take $100 for me to do it. 2, 10,000. 3, 1 million. 4, I would not do this for any amount of money. So column A, stick a sterile hypodermic needle into your arm. So it's sterile. There's going to be no harm coming to you or others. Would you do it for free? Would you do it for $100, $10,000, $1 million? You know, I would probably do it for $100. I wouldn't do it for free because why? But if somebody offered me $100 to stick a sterile hypodermic needle into my arm that I knew 0 consequences would come to me or anyone else, hell yeah. But column B says, stick a sterile hypodermic needle into the arm of a child you don't know. So now your moral reasoning is now you're inflicting potential pain on an innocent child. There still won't get harm beyond the initial stick. But how much money are you going to require now? Would you do it for free? Would you still only need $100? Would you need 10,000, $1 million, or not do it for any amount of money at all? And the whole point of it being a child you don't know is that you can't really talk to them or make them understand that you're doing it for money. And hey, we can split this money. Like if you chose the $100, be like, hey, I'll give you $50. Like, you know, you can't do that. So it's fascinating. It really goes into morality and how that plays into politics and religion, and how that is the fundamental crux of why people just can't get along. Absolutely, highly, 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 highly recommend. Out of every book that I talked about, I recommend this one the most. And then I recommend that you read books similar to this style, against this style, because now, more than ever in 2021, we need to all get on the same page. So that was a lot of books, and let's jump into some pen and ink. For the month of May, I used this pen. This pen was actually a new purchase in the month of May from Leonardo Officina Italiana. This is their 2021 version of the Momento Zero. And this is the Prune spaghetti resin. And it is just simply stunning. It has rose gold trim. I have done a full review if you want to get super detailed about the item, but it is a steel nib, extra fine plastic feed, and I do have the converter with it as well. I purchased this one from Emmy at Pen Venture, and he even tuned this for me. I like this quite a bit. It does have a fair amount of weight to it for being a small pen, but it's not like obtrusively heavy. You can post if you want to, but I don't. I love the grip section. It's very, very comfortable. I like it a lot. Extra fine nib is pretty darn extra fine. And I had it inked up with also what was a very recent purchase at the time, Monteverde Blueberry Muffin. I don't have a ton of purple inks. I did have Mont Blanc Lavender Purple, which has been discontinued since then. I'm going to get a Kleenex to take that off. Has been since discontinued, but I finished that bottle. So now this is going to get messy. Not bad. I only got a little bit there. So now I have this one, and this one's a very nice purple. And it will focus in a moment once I get this back in here. The Pilot Iroshizuku ones do this to me too, and it drives me nuts. Come on, get back in there. There we go. I'll clean it up since I'm here. Oh, silly rabbit tricks are for kids. All right. This is obviously one of their smaller bottles. They're 30 ml bottles. But I like it quite a bit. It is purple. It looks a little bit more red on camera. Of course, it is still wet. but it is more purple once it dries. And I thought it paired very well with this pen. Like I mentioned before in my April video, when I talked about the 3776, when we get into the month of September, I will actually do proper writing samples rather than just swabs here, but I'm playing catch up until then. And I don't really want to re-ink the pen just to write one sentence for you guys. I love you,